Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today we are going to do a very early June wrap up. Now, it's not going to go up early on my channel. It will go up at the end of June, but I'm filming it a little bit early, about a week earlier than I normally would, only because we are in the throes of moving prep right now, and the movers come in 1 week. So I'm not going to have time to do this another time. This is kind of the last day that I can really make time to film. We have lots of busyness stuff coming up this week. So because of that, I'm going to go ahead and tell you what I have read in the month of June, and then anything that I continue to read or that I finish up before this last week of June, I will include that in my July wrap up, because I know I'll probably finish at least a couple of books, but I do have 9 books to talk about. I read 9 books this month, and that's a big number anyway, but the fact that we're getting ready to move is just I can't believe I've read so much. I have read a few audiobooks, and that's going to be my jam for the next month or two, because, moving and traveling and doing all that stuff and unpacking and doing all the things, I'm going to be listening to audiobooks. So I think audiobooks is going to be probably majority of my reading coming up here soon, but I did read a couple this month too, so I wanted to share with you what I've read so far. The first one is actually a book that I read on my Kindle. I checked it out from my library on ebook, and that is The Governess Game by Tessa Dare. This is book number 2 in her Girl Meets Duke series, and it was a 5-star. You guys, I loved it. I'm kind of obsessed with this series, and I don't know, I can't get enough of it. They're fun. They're historical romances, but the way that the characters talk to each other is very modern and very, the banter back and forth is just fun and makes me laugh all the time. And in this one, I loved Chase, the main character guy. Oh my gosh, I loved him so much. He was fantastic. And he made me laugh out loud quite a bit. So it's just fun. It's a fun series. They're fun books. I read through them really, really quickly, and I just eat them up. And there's some good steamy scenes in them as well. So I loved it. Another one that I read is Misery by Stephen King. This was one of my 5-star predictions that Vicky picked for me. And I just had my 5-star prediction follow-up just go up. And so I read this one in the month of June, and I loved it. You guys, I gave this one 5 stars, definitely. It was creepy. Annie Wilkes is such a great villain. She is just completely crazy. And I also loved reading about Paul's kind of almost descent into insanity from being around Annie and being in this environment and being held captive like that. You really see him kind of almost just lose himself in it as well. It was just, I loved it. I loved it. It was great. I really want to watch the movie, so I'll do that sometime this year, definitely. But definitely a 5-star book. Another one that I finished is actually an arc that I read for the month of July, and that is The Mall by Mccafferty. So I'm going to save some of my thoughts on this one for my July review, which I will have up in the month of July, but this one comes out July 28th, I believe. And this is a young adult, and it's set in the 1990s, actually 1991, in a mall in New Jersey. Our main character has a job there for the summer after high school, and some of the shenanigans that she gets into up there. So I will save my rating and my thoughts for my July arc review, but I enjoyed it, definitely. And if you're a 90s kid, you're going to want to pick this one up. And I also read another 5-star prediction, and that is Us Against You by Frederick Bachmann. This is book number 2 in his Beartown series, and I have heard he's writing number 3 currently, so I'm very excited about that. And gosh, you guys, this one, Lindsay picked this one for me for 5-star predictions, and it was all the stars. I loved it. This one took me a while to read, though, because it's a very heavy book with very heavy topics. And I was reading it during the month of June when a lot of heavy things were happening in the world as well. So it was kind of hard for me to pick it up and get through a big chunk at a time. It kind of drained me a little bit. So I had to read it in little bits. So it did take me a couple of weeks to read, but the substance in here is so good. And I wrote down an entire page of quotes, which I knew I was going to, because he just has the best little one-line quotes in here that between this one and Beartown, there's so much that you can just pick out and it just speaks to you and it makes so much sense. Even if it's something you don't want to hear, it just makes sense. And it's fantastic. So this is a direct sequel to Beartown. So if you have not read either one, you need to read Beartown first, because the events in here are results of what happened in the first one. And they do get referenced. So you need to read the first one first. But oh my gosh, it's fantastic. And Benji is just one of my favorite characters of all time. Another book that I read for July is actually He Started It, and that is by Samantha Downing. This one comes out July 21st, and I'm actually part of a blog tour for that one, so I'm going to save my rating and my thoughts on that one for July as well. That will be coming up as a blog tour. So I will have a separate video for that one. But let me just say, it was my first Samantha Downing and it will not be my last. And then I picked up Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. This was one of my June ARC review books, so I have talked about this recently, so I won't talk about too much because I just posted it, but loved this. This was my second book that I read by Riley Sager. I want to read all of his books because it was a 5-star read. I absolutely loved it. It was creepy. I spent the entire time trying to figure things out, and is this place really haunted? I love the way that the dual timeline was presented, because it was presented in a unique and different way, and it lived up to every expectation that I had. So I was really, really happy with this one. But I do have a whole separate review on this one, so I will post that down below if you guys have not seen it yet, but it just went up. So 5 stars. And I finished Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien. I can now say that I have read The Lord of the Rings. All of it. The Hobbit, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I have read them. Was Lord of the Rings my favorite thing ever? Not really. I'm gonna do a whole video on my thoughts of Lord of the Rings, like the entire thing as a whole. So I'm gonna save that for after we move. That'll be one of the first videos I try to film after we move. But this one I gave 3 stars. It was just, I just feel like they're so long and they don't need to be so long. There's just so much detail in here that I got lost in it a lot of the time. Or there would be conversations that were 5 pages long for one conversation. And it was just like, oh my gosh, are we still talking about this? So yeah, 3 stars. It was fine. I do have more thoughts on it, but like I said, I'm going to save those for when I do like a full, my thoughts on the whole thing. But this one was a 3-star for me. And then I actually picked up a book randomly, you guys. I just picked up a book and I was like, I think I'm going to read this now. I had no plans to pick it up anytime soon, and I just went ahead and did it. I actually listened to this on audiobook because this is a book that I have gotten from Bookish First, and I got it in March of 2019. So it's an older review book, definitely. But I picked up The Last Voyage of Poe Blythe. This is by Ali Condi. And this one was fine. It was a young adult book. It's an adventure book. It follows our main character, who is kind of a leader on this ship. I hesitate to, it's not like pirates. This is almost like a science fiction-y type as well, where a lot of technology is involved in these ships and stuff. And she was in charge, or she like built the armor or something like that. And like was in charge of kind of the defenses of the ship and stuff like that. And then in the beginning of the book, she loses someone that she loves. And so she spends a lot of the book trying to avenge this person. And it almost becomes like a dystopian type thing where there's like, this admiral and he's trying to keep her down and has control over everything. And she's trying to rise up and be the one to save the world and blah, blah, blah. So definitely full of like YA tropes, I would say. And it was fine. My favorite character in here was Tam. He was like a cook. That was kind of his role in this whole thing. He made food for people and it made people happy and stuff like that. He was kind of my favorite character. But you spend a lot of the time with our main character trying to figure out who's betraying her, who's really on her side. She doesn't trust anybody. So yeah, I don't know. It was fine. Like I said, I'll probably end up forgetting about this after a while. It is a standalone. So if you do like YA kind of towing the line of science fiction fantasy, and you like dystopian as well, you might really enjoy this one. I'm a little bit getting away from that type of genre, so that's probably why I didn't enjoy it quite as much, and I just kind of thought it was okay. But the audiobook is really good, so I will give it that. I did enjoy listening to it. I listened to it really quickly. I think I listened to this over 2 or 3 days. It's not a super long book, and it is a standalone, like I said. So yeah, but it was fine. And the last book that I can talk about right now is The Dilemma by B.A. Paris. This is another one that I talked about in my June ARC reviews, and this is the 4th book by B.A. Paris. I have read all of them, and I did really enjoy this one. I went into it with a little bit lower expectations because I had heard mixed things about it, and I wasn't quite sure if it was just going to live up to her first book for me, which was Behind Closed Doors. That's been my favorite of hers. The other 2 that I read were just okay. But this one I really enjoyed. It's definitely not a thriller, so I wouldn't go into this expecting like a thriller with twists and turns and stuff. It's a family drama, and it surrounds this party that our main character is having for her 40th birthday, and it involves secrets that are starting to come out. She knows a secret about her daughter. Her husband knows a secret about her daughter, but they're not the same secret, and they're trying to figure out when they're going to tell the other person because it's important stuff and blah, blah, blah. So it's a whole thing. So there is definitely kind of that not miscommunication, but they're not really talking about anything yet because they want this party to go through first. And then after the party, they're going to sit down and settle things. But is that dangerous to wait and all this stuff? And what are the consequences of waiting? So, definitely a family drama, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked the characters. I thought it was really well done. I think a lot of the decisions that were being made sense. There was only one decision kind of towards the end that I went, is that really your place to make that decision? It was just one little thing, and I just kind of went, I don't know if you should be the one making that decision for this other person, you know what I mean? But yeah, so I really enjoyed it. I really liked it a lot. I'm really happy. Okay, guys, so those are 9 books that I read in the month of June so far. Like I said, we have 1 more week to go in June. I'm just not going to be able to have time to film at the end of the month because our stuff is going to be starting to get packed up. So anything that I finish in this month, I will roll over into July. So July will probably be a big wrap up as well, but I'm excited about it. And I will be back tomorrow with what I plan to read in July. I do have a plan, kind of, but so I'll talk more about that tomorrow. So, all right, let me know down below if you guys have read any of these books. How has your June been going? Let me know how your reading's been going, and I will see you guys again soon. Have a great day.